candidates who wrote the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants final board exam on the 1st of December say they are traumatized. That's after some of them spent almost 15 hours in exam venues where they were supposed to write their exams. Assessment of professional competence exams are the final step towards becoming a qualified chartered accountant. Let's unpack this further with SAICA CEO Freeman Nomvalo, who joins me now. Mr. Nomvalo, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Now, we understand that as SAICA, you have since apologized for the technical issues experienced by the candidates during that December 1st exam. But just talk to us about what you've established led to the glitches in your preliminary assessment or investigation of sorts.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your viewers. What we have established are a few things. One, that the decision to hire laptops for all the trainees and the delivery of the laptops resulted in some of the and became the major trigger of these challenges. The risk assessment that ought to have been done in terms of the impact of hiring laptops for all the trainees would have helped, but also the identification during the testing period of the how these laptops would function, the connectivity, the compatibility for the software that is being used would also have assisted if escalated. Secondly, the numbers of candidates on the day on the 1st of December when they were writing, when some of the candidates, in fact, it's not proper to say few because there was quite a number of them. When some of the candidates identified the challenges with the laptops, there began to be a bit of panic, and then some laptops were not connecting properly, and candidates were really anxious as to what is happening at the time. The number of technical support that was on site, the invigilators were there, but invigilators were not able to deal with the technical IT issues that arose. I make reference to the hired laptops because there was quite a number of them that were identified to be non-compliant or, in fact, defective, at least about 600 of them.
Yes.
And troubleshooting those laptops was quite a big issue. And candidates that had access to those laptops were really, really stressing.
Mr. Nomvalo, I mean, many would assume, yes, you're saying that you are greatly apologetic, but many would have assumed that the compatibility of these laptops with the software would have been tested beforehand because you had 5,000 students. This is an exam they prepare for most of their careers. And then at that point, you're hiring laptops and compatibility tests is not done. Perhaps maybe if you start with the intention, I'm sure it was noble. What was the intention behind deciding to hire the laptops?
Yes. The SAICA started writing this assessment using electronic means in 2015. Throughout that period, the assessment was done using laptops that various candidates would provide from their places of employment or their own personal laptops. The majority would have used equipment from their places of employment, and those that use the equipment from places of employment, you would find that in the event that there is some software update on the laptop, as a result of the regular updates that the employer would be making, those would sometimes cause problems on the day when the candidate is writing. And then the attempt to assist the candidate would be very, very difficult because the access rights to the laptop would be limited. So even though you would have a technical person on site to deal with that issue, that person may not be that effective without the access rights. And understandable, companies have to secure their equipment. There's a whole lot of cyber crime that is out there. But those issues then pose a lot of challenges for the candidates. So for that reason, in an attempt to solve those problems, this option of hiring laptops was considered a way to mitigate that. But even when you do that, you still need to have certain logistical issues handled well in advance, and when there are any indication of problems, also escalated in advance so that they can be addressed quickly. In the past, when people used their laptops, even though it was still problematic, there were ways to resolve it, painful as they were, but it never got to this proportion in terms of its impact.
So good intention on the part of SAICA, but unfortunately the testing element didn't go so well. Now, we understand that you are yet to make a call on a possible rewrite. Is there a possibility of marking the exam and then having only those who wouldn't have passed rewrite, or it would be a blanket approach? If you decide on a rewrite completely, then everybody rewrites?
The decision that the board took was to let everybody write. There has been responses to that by many stakeholders, and those responses seem to favor a scenario where the marking happens and then have a rewrite only for those that may have not been successful, and then grant them an additional opportunity. The board is going to meet to look into that issue, I think, by opening up an opportunity to consult. The board was creating a space in which it's able to reconsider its decision, and that will happen in due course. So there is a lot of appetite for scripts being marked in advance before any decision on people that are going to write again.
Okay. I'm sure a lot of people would probably warm up to that option. But with those that might rewrite, would they have to then pay again for that exam? Given
the fact that they are rewriting as an acknowledgement to start with by SAICA, and SAICA attempting to make sure that their dream of becoming chartered accountants is not compromised as a result of actions beyond their control, but actions within SAICA's control. So it would be unfair to expect them to pay again. And the board has indicated already, even in the decision that it had taken, it had indicated that it would not expect the candidates to pay again.
Okay. Now, beyond the cost element, there's the timing. In as much as we're not accountants, we understand there's a lot of preparation that goes into such an exam. It's the biggest exam of their careers. How soon would you want to have that rewrite if it were to go through?
I think the principle, these candidates have got opportunities for advancing their careers linked to the availability of results of this assessment. And therefore, it's important that that aspect is not delayed as too far out. But there are other practical considerations that have to be taken into account in order to do this and do it properly. Make sure that their assessment has got integrity and nobody will doubt that they are competent, as the result may show after the assessment. So the appetite is to do it as quickly as possible, bearing in mind the practical considerations of setting another paper, marking the current scripts, as well as the availability of leave for the candidates because of the deadlines that they may be having as a result of certain submissions that have to be done in terms of the JSE, in terms of the year end of different companies where they work. So we've got to take all of those things into account, but still find a date that is as close as possible to the...
Sure, Mr. Nomvalo, thank you very much for your time, but a very serious blunder on the part of SAICA. But thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. That's CEO Freeman Nomvalo talking to us on that big crisis pertaining to the exam that was written on the 1st of December.